Welcome to Behind the Pages. This is the podcast where we talk about worship in life, music, and poetry. I am your host, Edward Wiggins, and I have with me one half of the duo, Zoetic, based in Phoenix, right? Arizona?
Phoenix, yes.
Yes. And I have Kierstyn St. John. She is the writer, multi instrumentalist, and producer for the group as well. So, what's going on, Kierstyn? How are you?
Thank thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course, and thank you for coming because you are actually my first guest on the podcast. So that's super super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But before we started the recording, I was just talking to Kierstyn about how as like going back to what we were talking about real quick. I'm gonna get into like the questions and everything, but I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
conversation we were doing.
Yeah.
But I was just talking to somebody about how when you know the basics of music theory, you can take that and do anything. Like I started on voice, and
Mhm.
that's where I started learning music theory with like choir and all of that. And then from there, I actually took music theory classes. Now I
Mm.
hated theory in school with a burning passion. So many
You know,
numbers.
it's interesting. I think it's really admirable because I'm not a singer. It's like one of the things I don't do. My duo partner does that, Emma. But I think it's really admirable when singers learn music theory because I feel like that's actually somewhat not common. Like a lot of
Really?
singers that I've met don't take the time to necessarily learn music theory because they don't necessarily think they need it. And so I think it's really cool when singers know music theory because it helps so much with like if you want to learn an instrument and if you're a singer, like learning an instrument is really important because then you can accompany yourself or you can
Mm,
write your own stuff or like things like that. And so I don't know. I think it's cool that you like wanted to learn more about theory, even though it can be really like it can be really boring. I mean, I don't know if boring is the right word. I like applied music theory, like I
mm,
like composing and stuff like that. But and I love theory. I majored in music composition and theory,
ah,
so like I have a soft spot in my heart for it. But it is a lot,
yeah.
and I think it helped that I kind of grew up around it, so that it wasn't just all hitting me in the face in high school or college.
Okay, so you already had like a background with music theory before you like started like getting into it like real serious, right?
Oh, for sure. I've been playing piano since I was 3.
Oh.
My dad taught me how to play piano. He's been a music teacher for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he when I was 3, like maybe a little older, like 4 or 5, but he was teaching me chords. Like he was teaching me chords and how they work together. And so I very much grew up in that type of knowledge of like, oh, this chord works with this chord or whatever. And then when I was like 8 or 9, I started like being able to pick out songs on Christian radio. And then from that point, it kind of like when got into high school and college and started taking music a lot more seriously, um, that's when I started taking jazz really seriously and learning chord substitutions and like all that fun stuff. But yeah, I've known music like music theory or how chords kind of work together.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up learning that. So that was helpful, I think, in terms of college and zoetic and stuff like that.
It all for me, it all kind of bombarded me in high school, but I was always interested in singing. That was
Okay.
really big for me. And like I was saying earlier, music theory. Now, one of the things I find fascinating about music theory is how everything is so interconnected. Like, specifically with jazz, I am not a jazz guy. I can sing jazz. I've sang in like jazz ensembles and barbershop ensembles. So I'm familiar with like swing and some of those chord changes. But as far as like playing, whoo, nah. Like I would like to learn to play, but it was more for me. I learned how to play the drums and piano and stuff for the purpose of accompanying myself
Yeah.
so that I can write and record and stuff like that. But as far as like the theory and
Yep.
everything, it all like smacked me in the face in high school. And so I wasn't
Yeah.
prepared for all that. And I was like, And then my music teacher, my choir teacher was like, you know what? You have a great voice, and you have like honestly, it was all God, because my first
Mhm.
year, my choir teacher was like, you know what? I want to put you in the varsity mixed choir. I'm like, I don't know nothing about nobody's varsity mixed choir. Like, what are you talking
That's
about?
awesome. That's
And
I think that, I mean, and it's really cool too that you didn't just stop at piano either, because piano or guitar would be like the main instrument that you would normally think of that a singer would use to accompany themselves, but you also learn drums.
mm,
So like once you've got drums, then you've got like the whole thing. Like, because bass is guitar. I mean, if you can play guitar, you can
you
kind
can
of play
play,
bass.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
for the most part, I mean, I'm sure there are bassists that would be like, no, that's not true. But I think that if you learn most guitar, you can play bass at least at like a beginner level. And so like once you have all those instruments, then you can really produce. And that's, you can produce songs and make songs, and you can make them sound good.
mm.
Because I think that that's part of the issue, is that it's almost like we've made it too easy for people to produce nowadays, where
Oh,
like you have
bro.
these chord packs, or like these things where you don't really like need to learn a lot of music theory or things like that in order to produce. And okay, maybe you can make something that sounds decent and have like no musical knowledge, but somebody coming in with a lot of musical knowledge is going to have a huge advantage
Mm,
over somebody who doesn't, you know.
mm.
So I think the more time you put into your musicianship, the better of a producer you'll be, because producing isn't just like picking cool sounds.
Right.
It's like it's a tough skill, you know.
Yeah. And then I got into, I don't know if you know who Andrew Wong is. He's a
I've heard of him. Is he a YouTuber?
he is, and he's based in
Yeah, I've heard of
Canada.
him.
And
Hmm.
he oh gosh, like not only is he like a music theory nerd too, but
Yeah.
he like sound design. Like I for a long time, like
Mhm.
I have a track that I came out with called Let It Be. And when I was writing for that album, it's called On My Way. When I was writing for that album, I listened to him and 21 Pilots to
Mm.
pull, because they're so 21 Pilot. First of all, they're weird to begin with. Like they're just
Yeah.
out there. And then Andrew, he's out there with his production, and then he's a geek on like sound design and
Mm.
all kinds of synths and what can I do with the, and I was studying him for a while to kind of pull in one lyrically and also musically, so I can like pull in all that stuff. And then that track, it had like a whole bunch of crazy sounds in it, but it all fit together because my brother mixed that track.
Mm.
And I was like, because
Yeah.
he's really good at doing that.
Yeah, and sound design for me is honestly, sound design is like the most miserable part of the process for me. I've I've learned to like do it, like I have to do it.
Yeah.
But like I see, writing songs for me is so fun and easy and lovely. And arranging, I love to arrange, and I love to you know, get everything mapped out how I want it. But like picking the picking the sounds that I hear in my head, or like finding those,
Yeah.
it can take a long time, and it's just so detailed, and like I have to do it, so I do it. But like it's probably not my favorite part of the process. I mean, you can do some cool things, obviously, like, you know, reversing things or doing things with synths that are really cool, or, you know, I don't know, all those low pass filter, whatever you're going to do. But like, um, for me, like that just enhances the song, you know,
Mm.
like the song needs to be good without that, in my
Yes.
opinion. And then all the rest of that is just, because like I don't know, I mean, I won't name any names or anything, but like I think we could both think of people who there's a ton of focus on sound design, but like the songs aren't that great. And it's like, to me, I'd rather hear a song with like decent production that's really good, but like the songwriting's really good, versus like a song with like insane production, but like
Mm.
it's not that good of a song. Like it's not catchy or compelling, or it doesn't do any, like, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think production, like good sound design and selection enhances a song, but like it's like the icing on the cake. It's not the cake itself, you know, that's the song, you know.
I absolutely agree. It's like having a singer that does like a whole bunch of runs, but there's no
Mhm.
like meat. You don't know
Yeah.
phrasing. You don't know like it's like you know when you go to like some of those old black churches and you just have them
Mm.
just shouting.
Yeah.
There's no like one of the things I pay attention to when I'm because sometimes I get a chance to teach like ensembles, and so one of the things I tell them is listen. I teach them chords and like I have a friend and she like gobbles up everything I teach her because like she's you know she's called to worship but she's never done it before. It's not her thing, and so like the last like 5 years, you know, I've just been kind of helping out with that as I'm allowed to, and as they ask me to. And you know, one of the things I taught them was, okay, when you're singing, you have to learn to blend, not just
Mhm.
shouting into the mics. You have to learn proximity effects. You have to learn all these things to make sure that the sound sounds good. It's not enough to just know the notes. You have to sing them in the way. You have to learn phrasing. You have to learn dynamics. You have to know because your
Yeah.
dynamics will make the song come out and you know
Yeah.
ebb and flow. It's like life. You know what I mean?
See, and I completely agree with you. I think mature musicians understand that, but the thing is that, you know, from a singing perspective, and again, I said I don't sing, but you know, blending is not as fun as riffing. Like riffing
Ah,
is, you know what I mean? Like riffing, like doing all, and the point I'm making
yeah,
is that like all that cool production stuff, like it seems fun, but it's like if you don't know how to write a good song, I don't really care what you can do in production. Like I just the song has to resonate. It has to hit. And if it doesn't, like the production to me is just it's like again eating a mound of icing. Like there's no substance to it. And I think that that's like I think that musicians eventually start to learn, you know, because it's similar with piano too. Like I
mm,
mean, I love to play fast and do and shred and do a bunch of crazy stuff, you know, on the piano. I love that, but it's like I can't do that 100% of the time.
yeah,
Like I have to be able to tone it down or use good dynamics or use correct pedaling or use or know my chords or like all these other things. Like it's not just about being flashy all the time. And I think that that can be applied to like you said, like singing or piano or whatever in music, you know?
for sure. So one of the things that, and I commented on your video a while back, one of the things that drew me to you guys is you were talking about the religion versus relationship argument. And I loved what you said because I hardcore believe this. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, nah, dude, I gotta follow these guys because, I love like seriously, like I love the fact that you guys, it's not just about the music for you guys. It's about true worship. It's about changing the culture and inserting God into the culture. And
Yeah.
and not only are you guys talented because we have a whole bunch of talented people that go on, you know, some of these award shows and compromise the faith because they think that um in order to insert God, you have to compromise who you are when it's in fact the exact opposite. You're
Mm.
not supposed to compromise. So
Yeah.
that was one of the things that drew me to you guys. Like, can you tell me like a little bit about, I guess, like your testimony and how that mixes in with music? Like what you do?
Sure. Yeah. First, before I get into that, I want to say, first of all, that that's really cool to hear that you discovered us through a video like that, especially because those videos are actually quite difficult for me to make. Like,
Mm,
I do it, and I think it's important to do it. But we get a lot of blowback on videos like that. We get messages, depending on what the video is, probably not that specific one, but
yeah.
anything we're talking about anything, like it's just people are going to have opinions on it. It's the internet, right?
Yeah.
And I, you know, there's a part of me that would just love to stay 100% in my music brain all the time and just make music only, right?
Yeah.
But I don't believe that that's like I believe that music is a vehicle for Christ. Like it's like the end is Christ. And however I can get people to that end, whether that be through our music or whether that be through like one of our mission videos, which is the one that you were referring to, or like our YouTube channel, it doesn't really matter to me as long as the end is bringing people to the Lord and encouraging Christians in their faith.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that way you can get notified of when I make new videos. As always, I love you guys, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.